And this is what really gets to atheists. That is a moral argument. Have you seen this? Epicurus. I saw it. The first time I saw, I was stunned because it makes sense. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both and willing? Then whence cometh the evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? That is Epicurus. That's a very, you should think about it. Yes, that's a very deep thought that he said. And many people, many atheists just have the moral argument. Why is there so much pain? Have you heard this? Why is there so much pain and suffering? Forget everything, who created God and stuff. The number one point that comes up is, why is there so much pain and suffering in the world, right? Bothers you, bothers me also. If God is love, why does evil exist? Why there is so much suffering? And the atheist dilemma. We'll come into this again. There are two kinds of evil. I'll answer them both. One is a moral evil, where people make a moral choice and trouble others caused by man. The next is the natural evil, that is happens as acts of God. You heard of this thing? Some fire, flood, tornado, landslide, tsunami. Sorry. Yes. The primary reason for the existence of natural evils. There are physical laws in place which governs the universe. Without these laws, there would be nothing, no mankind, nothing. The natural evil, according to atheists, there are many natural evils that they quote. Fires, landslides, floods, hurricanes, infectious disease, painful death from incurable diseases, animal pain. Now, when you say about a God, God's requirements from the universe is at 4 levels. The universe must allow for the existence of sentient creatures. Sentient means people like us, beings like us, who have abstract thought, who have reasoning. I am not talking about a one-way street like a fish. That's not a totally sentient being. These sentient creatures must have the ability to make moral choice. Does a fish make a moral choice? Now, the universe must showcase the power of God. Now, a quick crash course in physics. There are 4 fundamental forces. Please pay attention. This will make everything fall into place. Fundamental forces of nature is at 4 levels. There is a strong nuclear force, which keeps the protons within the nuclei from flying away. There is a weak nuclear force. There is a gravity. Everybody knows gravity. You are sitting here. Then electromagnetic force that is there in place. These are the 4 fundamental constants in forces of nature. Can the laws be tweaked? Let us see. The ratio of protons to electrons, maximum deviation allowed, without which everything would just disappear. Nothing would exist, not even atoms in its full forms. 1:10 followed by 37 zeros. What about the electromagnetic force of gravity? 10 followed by 40 zeros. Expansion rate of the universe, 10 followed by 55 zeros. Mass of the universe, that's also fine tuned. 10 followed by 60 zeros. And finally the cosmological constant, that is the dark energy and stuff, dark matter, 10 followed by 120 zeros. That's the max deviation allowed. Can they be tweaked? No. So the fundamental forces of nature cannot be altered. So natural evil from extraterrestrial sources, that is meteorites falling through the sky. Few people die every year. Heard of this thing, killer rocks from the sky. The question comes, why didn't God just eliminate all this junk matter in space? Very interesting. Because we have an entire universe where every second one star is exploding. There is a lot of junk in the universe and they come towards Earth every day, thousands. But God has given, or let me not use the word God because it may cause some bias. There is an atmosphere around the Earth. Everything that comes through gets burnt up because of re-entry. Everything burns up. Some get through, very few. But the junk in the universe cannot be discarded. A solar system, then the question comes, what about just a small solar system? Just the Earth and 8 planets. It was 9, now it is 8. No, Pluto is still there, but it's not counted as a planet anymore. So, what about just the solar system? Just imagine. You look up, you see nothing. Then the immediate thought comes, if God is so powerful, why was he such a big kanjus? Why was he such a big miser? He could have given me something more. What was he trying to save that he made such a small universe for me? Just one sun and 8 planets. So the Bible says the heavens declare the glory of God. Through the heavens we know him. Create the earth in another way? No, it's not possible. What about natural evil due to tectonic activity? Earthquakes, heard of this, right? So many people die. On an average, thousands are killed every year by earthquakes. How do we prevent the earth from shaking? Why does it happen? A quick glimpse into what the earth is all about. There is the earth mantle, there is the earth crust which is floating on a molten core. There are different plates. Sometimes they collide at different points. Huge amount. Even a nuclear bomb is nothing in front of it. Huge amount of energy is built up. When that energy gets released, that's an earthquake. When the plate drift, they touch each other, energy release results in an earthquake. So the immediate question comes, okay, fine. So then Earth could have created the crust with a steady crust. No need for movement. Remove the molten core, because the other planets in the universe, in the solar system, don't have a molten core. None of the other rocky planets have a molten core. So why not Earth? It would eliminate something called as a Van Allen radiation field, resulting in radiation, which is a much greater evil. Why? Because all the radiation in the universe would have hit in the solar system, in space, would have hit Earth. Not even bacteria would survive, even 100 kilometers below the surface of the Earth. Not even bacteria would survive. If that radiation, which was shielded from because of that molten core, it causes something called as a Van Allen belt like this. If the Earth's molten core would have stopped or would have gone, no core, no Van Allen belt, all radiation comes to Earth, everything would die. Everything. Not even bacteria 100 miles below the surface. No, nothing would survive. Get rid of all the radiation. Nuclear fusion, which is there in the heart of stars. Now let me tell you something. You are made up of carbon, oxygen and all those things, right? Same like me, iron, you are sitting on it. It was not part of Earth. Iron, carbon, oxygen, all those things are created in the heart of stars when they are dying. The extreme pressure and temperatures causes the atoms to fuse, giving rise to these elements. And when these elements are then distributed across space, littered across, that's how carbon is there on the surface of this Earth. Without nuclear fusion, there will be no rocky planets, nothing. So that nuclear fusion across the universe is causing the radiation. But there is a belt around the Earth protecting the Earth. Earthquakes are good. Without movable plates, no dry land would exist. Because the Earth plates are moving, land is kept above, otherwise it would sink to the bottom of the ocean. Erosion would result in a water world. Totally everything is dead, and fishes cannot have a spiritual life. Fishes don't know God, right? Or no? Right. Fishes don't know God. So fault zones and civilizations, look at it this way. Fault zones are where earthquakes happen. 13 out of the 15 first civilizations was in the vicinity of earthquake fault zones, like this. 13 out of 15. Why is that? If earthquakes is so bad, why? More abundant underground water, rich volcanic soils. Yes, rich volcanic soils. Now, I'll just give you a brief example, brief thought. Some years back, maybe a decade or something, there was this massive earthquake in Gujarat, right? You remember? So many people died. And I've got a very close friend of mine living in Gujarat. I called him, Bhai, kaise ho? How are you, brother? Where are you? What's happening? He said, we are fine. I said, what happened? The earthquake, is mummy, daddy, everybody? He said, yeah. I said, I'm happy. But I said, okay, so many people must have died in your vicinity. He said, no, nothing. He told something very strategic for me. He said, Naren, earthquakes don't kill people, buildings do. Think about it. What if you are just living in the open? What if you are living in a small, they were all massive land they have. So there are ground plus one structure, small houses, not one on top of the other, and swimming pools at top of the buildings and all those things. He said, earthquakes don't kill people, buildings do. Then the next thing comes up is tsunami. Yes, tsunami happens. It is nothing more than an earthquake below the surface of the water. Extremely rare. Again, you cannot eliminate earthquakes as we have seen because it's sustaining life on Earth. What about volcanoes? Very few people die, but still it is happening. Again, it's caused by tectonics, plate tectonics, and the molten core. You cannot release, you cannot remove the molten core, nor can you remove what? Plate tectonics. That is the movement of the plates. That causes volcanoes. Can you remove it and survive? No. Natural evil due to weather, landslides. I was hoping somebody would say that. Landslide, you must have thought about this. Earthquakes is fine, but what about landslides? Even if you are living on the street, you will still die. Every year, sporadic landslides, dozens of hundreds of people are left, occasionally people are killed. Like this, happens in California and all. But did you think about it? Badrinath also, like 2 years back, something like in India, so many thousands, hundreds of people died. Do you remember that? Floods, landslides. Why did it happen? What the people had did? They had dug across the river banks, changed the natural flow of water. All the forests were removed. Nothing to hold the land in place. The result? Landslide, floods, people dead. So it's not really natural evil. It is evil caused by greedy humans. What about floods? Kills an average of 146 people every year. Again, caused by flatlands and water. Can you get rid of flatlands or water? No. So if there is a flatland and there is water, there would be floods. But then how will atheists get rid of flatland and water is something that I don't understand. Again, floods are good. It's required. The Nile River civilization, have you heard about this? The Egypt Nile River, why? It used to flood every year. But still people were living over there and the most prosperous on the earth. It brings much needed silt and minerals to the surrounding land, making it very fertile. In New Orleans, like 2 years back something, there was a massive flood. Why was it done? Because people tried to control the magnet flooding that was happening. That led to an imbalance of silt into the Gulf of Mexico, like this. It shows why New Orleans was flooded in the US. What about hurricanes, cyclones and typhoons? Happens. Again, it's a tropical storm. From air from low pressure to high pressure to low pressure, right? That's how it moves, and tornadoes comes into place. More in the tropical areas, you must have seen all these things. Caused by uneven heating of the earth, like this. So water flows because of uneven heating. Did you know something? If the uneven heating of the earth stops, there would be a massive ice age. And everything would almost die except the aquatic life. Everything would be ice. Everything would be ice. Have you seen that movie Day After Tomorrow? I'm talking about that. I'm not talking Hollywood, I'm talking science. They adapted a part of science into Hollywood. If the movement of water, because of the water difference, temperature difference stops, everything stops. Temperature is distributed across the earth, hot and cold and all, because of the water movement, because of the uneven heating. That's also one of the parameters of intelligent design. Lightning kills a few people, almost 100 people in the US every day. Again, that is charges in the clouds getting discharged. If you eliminate lightning, you eliminate storms, and that is required because it is caused because of uneven heating of the water. You cannot remove it in all. And you cannot remove earthquake or lightning without tinkering with the electromagnetic force constant, which again would cause the universe to collapse. Again, lightning is good, and you must be thinking, not again. Yes, it is. Lightning causes nitrogen in the air to fuse with oxygen and water, causing nitric oxide, which is taken up by the plants. The next part is more painful, biological forms of evil. I'll just make it very short. There are genetic diseases caused by mutations, but some genetic diseases are good. For example, the sickle cell disease is caused by genetic mutation. It renders the person immune to malaria. Kills 1 million people every year. That is malaria. But if you have the sickle disease genetic mutation, you are safe. But then again, within that, if you have the homozygous variety of sickle disease, you will die young. If you have the heterozygous individual in sickle cell disorder, you will live typically like a normal life. But then again, remember one thing, that immunity is not passed from one generation to the other, and that is what mutation relies on. What about cancer? Touches everybody, right? Everybody has seen it, been touched in some way or the other, extremely painful, and it causes you to wonder. It's again caused by mutations within cells. It's not a disease, it's just the cells reproduce at such a high rate that the body goes out of sync in that. What is the mutation error rate? Can you see this? Okay. In humans, the cells are replicating, the DNA is replicating at the rate of 60 base pairs per second with an error rate of 2.2 followed by 8 zeros. But in bacteria, which is multiplying at the rate of 500 pairs per second, the rate is much higher, the error rate is much higher. That is 1 in every 10 followed by 8 zeros. So higher the replication rate, higher the mutation. Lower the replication rate, lower the mutation. But understand, no matter how slow your replication rate of your cells happen in your body, cancer cannot be eliminated because there is an error. There is a second law of thermodynamics. Error rate will always be there. Bacteria causes so many diseases, infections, stuff, viruses and stuff. Again, indispensable to the biomes of the world. Recycling, without the bacteria, most of you would be dead because nothing would then decompose. Recycling carbon and minerals from dead organisms. Present at greater than 10 raised to 7 organisms per gram of soil. They are the most widely spread entities across the world. First topic level in the food chain, bacteria and humans. Did you know something? You have 10 times more bacteria than cells in your body. You've got 100 trillion cells in your body. You've got 10 times more bacteria than human cells. Colonizes the intestinal tract. Now what happens is that within your intestinal tract there is bacteria which digest the food. If you don't, you are dead. And now scientists have come up some way of putting the bacteria in. They literally put human waste back inside the body. I am not making this up. Because that contains the bacteria and that is needed for your digestion of food. I didn't make this up, it's science. Prevents the overgrowth of pathogens, makes biotin and vitamin K, that's the bacteria in your gut. Pathogens recently, now what about the mutations, what about the differences in the bacteria? Sometimes they jump. That is, they go maybe from dead matter to live matter. So the bacteria which is rotting, decomposed food, if it enters my body, I'll get a disease. So you cannot really stop the bacteria from translocating. What about viral diseases? This is a bit painful, but again this is some form of bacteria in itself and you cannot do much about it. No way to prevent virus formation other than direct intervention when they arise. But again, viruses are good. It's getting monotonous now, right? Viruses are good. Why? Without viruses, most of the ocean life would be wiped out. There are 10 followed by 30 zeros viruses in the ocean and they positively impact the marine nutrient cycle. If no marine life, no life. Finished. Extent of natural, this is something that I really want you to pay attention to. If we do the sum of all the natural evil across the world, it affects 3%, 3.2, this is the max, okay, because I have also taken into consideration the Hurricane Katrina which affected 1% of the population. We have taken into consideration the Northridge part, the Mount St. Helens volcanic eruption, everything which is not happening at this time, but max, the impact is 3.2 of the population per year. Now this is again happening because of natural, which is required systems to be in place, plus natural systems being played upon by humans. When I was a child, I never heard of something called as a dengue or chikungunya. Have you heard of it? Now it is almost every second person I know has it. What about typhoid? I know just one boy in my life when I was a child who had typhoid. Now I know at least 20 people too from my own office. This is because of the way humans are behaving, the way they are eating, the way they are maintaining cleanliness around themselves. That cannot be attributed to an act of God. You destroy nature, you cannot just keep up with nature in that case. Natural evil conclusions, it is required as a part. So understand, so because of 3% being affected, 97% are safe. Are you expecting God to interfere with everything and turn the universe upside down? We'll look into it. What about the tinkering God? Could he not have taken care of the natural evil? Yes. So just imagine, there is a flood happening, he stops the water. So there is no water flowing from high to low. He stops the plate tectonics because he absorbs the energy. He tweaks with the gravitational force, he tweaks with the electromagnetic force. What would happen? Science is based on repeatable phenomena. Accept it? If something is not repeatable and checked and verified again and again and again, it's not science, it's a miracle. So if God was intervening in every Tom, Dick and Harry's life across the world, there would be no science because nothing would be trustable, right? Because God is continuously changing parameters everywhere. There would be chaos everywhere. You can't have both sides. Different laws of physics, most of the natural evil that you see is part of the second law of thermodynamics. And because of the second law of thermodynamics, this is the most important law in my opinion. There would be no stars, no light, no machines, no humans, no planets, no galaxies, nothing. Everything is there because of the second law of thermodynamics. That is the flow of energy, right? Flow of energy. Flow of energy, lights, flow of energy when I'm speaking, I'm eating. Without that, everything stops, right? My cells are burning energy. That is second law of thermodynamics, because of which I'm alive. If my cells stops burning energy, I'm dead, right? What about moral evil? That is somebody making a moral choice, killing somebody, raping, murdering, stealing, lying, whatever. So people say, atheists say, God is the author of everything, evil is something, therefore God is the author of evil. I had heard this, I'm sure that you would have too. What is the Christian's response? God created man with free will, and free will presupposes, cannot exist without the agent being given the option of even not doing what is required to be done, because that is free will. Yes or no, I will do this, yes or no. Therefore, God did not create evil. God created every substance. Evil is not a substance but a lack in a substance. Therefore, God did not create evil. The moral argument is very simple. If God does not exist, objective moral values and duties do not exist. Objective moral laws and duties exist, therefore God exists. This is an extremely powerful argument. Francis Collins, the father of the Genome Project, is not a Christian because of the cosmological argument or the design argument. He is a Christian because of the moral argument, because it's so powerful. The atheist dilemma, that is, I always say, how do you know? I have had words with so many atheists, and simply speaking, how do you know what is right or wrong? Without a benchmark, how do you know what is right or wrong? Somebody created the benchmark, right? Everybody knows across the world it's wrong to murder, it's wrong to rape, it's wrong to cheat, you have to take care of your parents, you have to take care of your children. If you see somebody in trouble, help him. Am I right? Do you need to be taught that? It's known. How do you know that? How is that consciousness within you applicable? Let me give you some example. An atheist says the world is absolutely unjust. The response, how can you know what is unjust until you know what is just? Who created the benchmark for you? How is that ingrained in everybody? Without a moral standard, how do you differentiate between Mother Teresa and Hitler? How do you know that Hitler was a bad guy? Because it was wrong to murder. But if that moral law was not in place, saying that murder is wrong, there is no difference. There is no, and I remember, this is true, I remember a nice session, there was Ravi Zacharias, and this is overseas, and he asked this, this guy came up and questioned him and said, I don't believe that there is a right or a wrong. Okay, he said, what if I take a 2-year-old child, take him on this table and abuse him or her, and then chop that baby into small pieces? Do you think I've done something wrong? You know what was the response of the atheist? He's saying, I can't say that you've done something wrong, but I wouldn't like it. Now, this is a fact. It's a very gruesome fact. Because immediately the question, if you would have said, yes, it is wrong, the answer would have been, how do you know it was wrong? If there was no moral lawgiver. Look at this, 2 maps of Scotland. Which one is right? Just to summarize, let's say one is, map A is Mother Teresa, map B is Hitler. How do you know which is the true recognition of a good human being? How do you know the baseline? I need a baseline which shows the actual map of Scotland, right? On the basis of which you can decide which is not the map of Scotland. Can I say that? This is Newton. We don't invent moral laws any more than we invent mathematical and physical laws. Anybody invents? No, they discover. There is a difference, right? Invent is making something new. Discovery is knowing something which was already there. Can I say that? There's a difference, don't confuse it. So no one invented laws or maths, and Newton did not invent gravity. He discovered it. Now this is C.S. Lewis. As an atheist, my argument against God was that the universe seems so cruel and unjust. But how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has a line standard of what is a straight line. We choose duty or instinct. Somebody is there in a house being burnt down, we go in. Why? If natural selection is true, you have to conserve yourself. But you see a house burning, there's a child inside, would you go? Yes or no? Yes. Why? Natural selection, evolution says survival of the fittest. You should let them die. They deserve to die. That's what Hitler said. Survival of the fittest, the super race. Do you think this is wrong? How do you know it is wrong? Everybody knows that evil, genocide, racism, bigotry is wrong. Why do you think there is a law which says, do unto others as you would have done unto you? Why? Now they will say, people like Michael Shermer and all, they would come up and say, no, you see, this is, you scratch my back and I take care of you, you take care of me. So I'm good to you so that you can be good to me. Fine. If there is a genocide happening in Rwanda, Africa, why does the US send forces? Most of them actually die over there. There are volunteers in Syria and Libya that are being beheaded by ISIS, right? They are going there to help them, right? The volunteers from Red Cross and all, Salvation Army. Why are they going there? What will those people sitting in Syria and Libya be able to benefit these people going there? Why are they going? If it is survival of the fittest, me, my and myself, why are you going there? What gives you that instinct to help others who would be of no help to you at any point of time, and it endangers you, your life, property in the meanwhile? Former atheist Francis Collins, a baby feels hunger, well there is such a thing as a food. A duckling wants to swim, well there is such a thing as water. Why would a universal and uniquely human hunger for God exist if it were not connected to some opportunity for fulfillment? I'll just skip over some more quotes, it's not really needed. I'll put it up in my presentation. Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, Bertrand Russell, all these are the most noted atheists of all time. They are not Christians.